My husband, Will, 40-year-old male, has a lifelong friend, Dirk, 40-year-old male. I, 36-year-old female, met Dirk about 18 years ago when Will and I were just friends. Fast forward, Will and I are an official couple. Dirk dates my roommate for a brief period of time. We all hang out, and it's great. Dirk and I become friends. He's a fun person to be around. Dirk is in the military, so we don't get to see him often because he was stationed in another state. However, he randomly just appears on our doorstep without giving a heads up, and it's always a fun week when he's down. Dirk gets sent to Afghanistan for a year. He comes back married. At this point, Will and I have been dating for about 4 years. Dirk comes back with his now pregnant wife, Peg. They've been married for about a month, and she's about 10 weeks pregnant, tired and feeling like garbage. We meet her for the first time, and all goes well, or so it seemed. Turns out I did something she took offense to. I apologized to her, and she said it was okay. Done. The rest of their visit was good. Time passes, and they come down with their baby for a New Year's party at another member of their lifelong friend group. Dirk and Peg are so insanely rude throughout their stay at this person's house. I've never seen Dirk act like that before. They're talking bad about the wife of the friend whose house they were staying at, and they're mad that they had to pitch in for food. I kept my mouth shut. However, Dirk and Peg were bragging about the new house they were buying, which had around 2,000 square feet. I personally like smaller homes, so I mentioned that I liked that it didn't feel very large. Dirk took offense to this and raised his voice saying, "It's 2,000 square feet. It's not small." I apologized and told him that I meant it as a compliment because I don't like large homes. I prefer homes that feel cozy. Dirk accepted my explanation, and that was it. Done. But the same night, Peg, who was drinking, confronts me about the offensive thing I did to her a couple of years ago. I apologize for it a second time and add, "I'm sorry that this is still bothering you." We talk, and she accepts my second apology. A few years go by with visits in between, and all seems to be good. Then, we're all together again for another New Year's party. Will and I are married at this point, and there are some weird conversations going on. Dirk and Peg are asking, what if scenarios? They recently took a trip to Vegas, so they were asking questions like, both of you are okay with it. How much money could a stranger offer you for you to have intimacy with them? They were giving out their numbers, like $500,000. The other couples refused to say anything, so I say, not an exact quote, but close. The real question that you're asking is, how much money would I accept to destroy my marriage? Because even if we're both cool with it, a seed of resentment has been planted, and the likelihood of that coming back to haunt us is high. I know I couldn't handle Will sleeping with another woman, and I know he couldn't handle me sleeping with another man. So I would say no matter the amount. And Will agrees. Well, Peg and Dirk hate my response, and they keep prodding. The conversations just get weirder and weirder. Later that night, Peg brings up that offensive thing that I did to her, and I apologize for it a third time. She says, we're all good, it's in the past. At this point, it's getting quite deep in the past. After that, things are weird and strained. Dirk starts lashing out at me randomly when we're hanging out. He accuses me of cheating with Will when we were just friends and Will had a girlfriend. Look, I'm guilty of maybe lurking, but we were friends before Will's relationship and I did like him. However, I never crossed that friendship boundary. It was Will who overstepped it, and that was after his relationship was over. But, outsiders seem to know everything sarcasm. Dirk also throws out some insults towards my physical appearance. I'm a tall female with big feet and hands, so his insults are just clever sarcasm. Then Peg's older brother is unalived by his girlfriend. I don't ever text her, but I send her a text this time giving her my sympathy and offering her any support I can. She doesn't respond, and that's okay by me. We also send out a condolence card with a gift card to a restaurant. The card is sent and signed with, "Your friend." The following day, Dirk calls my husband to complain about me. He says really mean stuff about me. I had just had a baby, and Dirk says to Will that Will likes fat chicks now. When I heard that, I sobbed. It really hurt. Then Dirk says that Peg hates me and is still offended by what I did 8 years ago. Will defends me, but he is very conflict avoidant and taken off guard, so his defense wasn't the greatest. But that's okay. So a few months pass, and Dirk comes calling again, and his wife has new old beef with me. Again, revolving around the offense that I caused her ages ago, which I've apologized for 3 times at this point. I told Will, okay, she's not going to let this go. I'm done apologizing about it. A few more months later, Dirk and Peg are planning a trip, and Dirk wants us to watch their kid. I tell Will that I love that little guy, and of course, we'll watch him. Behind the scenes, Peg is upset, saying that she doesn't want her kid around me because she thinks I will beat him. Unbelievable. So they stop by before their trip, and I'm just so uncomfortable in their presence. I had lost all of my baby weight at this point. So the first thing Dirk comments on is, "You lost weight." I'm so annoyed by his comment. I say hi to him, and I admittedly snub Peg. She comes in acting like nothing has happened, and I just barely squeak out a smile and walk away. We sit down at the dining table, and Will and Dirk are talking, but I just want to disappear. So I get up and go into an adjacent room and do work for my business, ignoring them the whole time. I just couldn't put on the everything is cool persona. Things have only gotten worse since I snubbed Peg. She is still bad-mouthing me to Dirk, who in turn bad-mouths me to Will. Will has told him to STFU several times, and now he's decided, for the sake of my mental health, to not share what's said. Dirk is a completely different person from the one I once knew. When he knows I'm in the house, he tries to joke around with me over the phone, but I can't. I feel like things are so damaged and these people are not my friends. What I need advice on is that they're coming to visit in a couple of months, and I don't know what to do. I don't want to talk to her, but I also don't want to be awkwardly ignoring her. And I absolutely don't want to be fake. I'm thinking about making myself scarce, taking our kid to a theme park while they're here, and staying with other friends, so I'm just never home. But it's my home. Ideally, I want to know the most mature way to handle this. And I do not want to have a sit-down conversation with her or have any more conversations about this issue. I feel like we've tried that already, and it was unsuccessful. And Will is confused about whether he should ditch his childhood friend. I tell Will all the time that I will not force him to give up that relationship. I don't want to be the wedge, but I feel like Dirk and Peg are making me the wedge, and I freaking hate it. TLDR, how do I cope with being around someone who hates me in a mature and respectful way? Update. I'm getting a lot of really solid advice and taking it. The theme of the advice is for me to be firm and assertive about my feelings, and to stop allowing this behavior. I talked to my husband and told him I'm done, and I don't want them in my home or to see either of them, and I left it at that. My husband didn't say anything other than a sigh. But I know he's mulling it over, and I need to give him time to do that. Additionally, with many requests, this is the bombshell offense. What I do for a living is I get a lot of free books. I'm constantly giving them away. So when they showed up for the first time, Dirk told her that I'll give her some books, but I had recently donated a bunch. So I only had a couple of new releases. Because of the imprint, they were all self-improvement books, particularly about relationships. So it was books about how to cope in a struggling marriage and how to communicate better with your spouse. She accused me of being passive-aggressive and implying that their relationship needed help. I told her they were new releases and that she didn't have to take them. She could instead pick some books from my bookshelf that I was keeping for myself. But she declined and took the self-improvement books anyway. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Go no contact, North Carolina. And Will has to do that too. These are not friends. They both talk negatively about you and use you for babysitting. I repeat, these are not friends. Simply tell Will to cancel all plans and go no contact. Can't he see that this man is not the same man he was friends with all those years ago? Don't wait until your kids get involved and there will be no end. If Will is unable to go no contact, he can go low contact, LC, with Will. And you both go no contact with Peg. Sit him down and express how bad you feel and how disgusted you are with both of them. Tell him you refuse to interact socially with either of them and that they are not welcome in your home. then block them on everything. He does not seem to have a spine, so you must stand up for both of you. Your happiness and mental health are at stake. And honestly, that should be your husband's top priority, not someone who is a terrible friend and his obnoxious wife. Comment 2. How do I cope with being around someone who hates me with every fiber of their being, in a mature and respectful way, by never being around them ever again? There is no friendship. There's just some immature, disrespectful, exhausting, crazy, power-tripping, hostile situation going on. Probably instigated by Peg, who seems like a grade A, capital C, you next Tuesday. And her husband isn't much better. If your husband pathetically needs to be buddies with this Dirk jerk, let him hang out with him or the two of them, whatever, but not at your home or when you're present. Also, tell him you don't want to hear about them either. What they do, what they say, nothing. Don't do them any favors either. Cut them off. Hopefully your husband will do the same, because I'd worry they would stir up trouble about you since they seem so hateful and toxic. Now, for the update. Thanks for sticking around for this update. A lot has happened since the last post. So, Dirk and Peg's visit was looming like a dark cloud, and I was dreading it. But before they could even pack their bags, the bomb dropped. Will came home from work, his face ashen, and I knew something was up. He confessed that he had been having an affair with Peg for the past year. My world shattered. The betrayal cut deep, not just because of Will, but because Peg had been playing the victim all this time, while stabbing me in the back. I was livid, heartbroken, and felt like a fool. The signs were there. The weird conversations, the tension, and Dirk's sudden hostility towards me. It all made sense now. Dirk had known, and his anger was misdirected at me when it should have been at Will. I guess misery loves company, and Dirk wanted me to share in his pain without even knowing it. The aftermath was messy. I kicked Will out, and he went straight to Peg, who had conveniently left Dirk by then. The two of them together, it was like watching a car crash in slow motion. You know it's going to end badly, but you can't look away. But life has a funny way of balancing the scales. Peg's brother's death had left her with a hefty inheritance, and Will, ever the opportunist, didn't waste any time. Within weeks, he proposed to her. It was a slap in the face, but I was too busy picking up the pieces of my life to care. I focused on my business and my child, finding solace in the routine and the love of my little one. I lost friends in the fallout, but I also saw who my true allies were. People I had taken for granted stepped up, offering support and helping me navigate the legal maze of divorce. Then, as if the universe hadn't done enough, Dirk showed up at my doorstep, a broken man. Peg and Will's engagement had been the last straw for him. He apologized for his behavior, for the cruel words, and for not seeing what was right in front of him. I didn't know what to feel. Anger, pity, satisfaction? It was a mix of all three, but I let him in. Not back into my life, but just into the house for a conversation. We talked for hours, and it was cathartic. Dirk was dealing with his own betrayal, and we found common ground in our shared pain. He was leaving the military, he said, and starting over. I wished him well, but I knew our friendship would never be the same. As for Will and Peg, their fairy tale was short-lived. Turns out, Will wasn't the only one with a wandering eye, and Peg wasn't one to settle down. Their engagement crumbled, and the last I heard, they were both looking for someone else to blame for their unhappiness. I learned a lot about myself through this ordeal. I'm stronger than I thought, and I'm capable of forgiveness, but not forgetfulness. I'm rebuilding my life, and it's a slow process. But I'm getting there, one step at a time. Thanks for reading. My wife's ex-husband tried to sneak back into her life with cats, but when she chose them over me, I let her go only for her to come. Crawling back after an accident, and I made sure we set the rules for our marriage on my terms. My wife, 27 years old, and I, 25 years old, have been married for 8 months now, and she is asking for a divorce over 2 cats. For background context, we took a premarital course and answered some big questions together, including the animal topic. We agreed to have no more animals than what we currently have. I brought in 1 cat, and she also brought in 1 cat into the relationship. Recently, her ex-husband has texted her multiple times, asking her to take 2 more cats. I said I did not want any more additional animals into our home. This has led to a very unhappy marriage and her having a suicidal episode. We got her the proper help she needs, and she is currently diagnosed with severe depression and anxiety. She is taking medication and is in therapy, which I go to about once per month with her when she wants me to join. As much as I did not want these cats for financial reasons, cat hair, litter box, etc., I came up with a compromise to take in one of the cats and have her pick a safe home for the other cat, where she could visit whenever the new family would allow it. She was okay with that at first, but then quickly changed her mind. She now has come home and said she would rather be alone with all of her cats than be with me. I know I'm not perfect or anything, but I really try to be the best husband I can be. I ask her what I can improve on in our relationship, and she just says I do everything I can as a husband. But she will never ever be happy with me if she doesn't have these cats. I feel as if I have set a boundary on animals, and we agreed before we got married, and it just doesn't matter. If I take these cats on, I know I will just be a miserable husband, and don't want that for either of us. How can we get through this situation if it's not too late? Am I just being too stern on my boundaries and not compromising enough? Should I just let her walk at it? Some more background since it keeps coming up. The cat we have now has a brother, one of the ones the ex has. The ex has a larger, older cat as well. They were both their cats at the time. When I met my wife, she was practically homeless and living in poor conditions. She had no animals with her at the time, but I knew about the cats. Big mistake on my part here. I felt terrible about her living conditions and offered a safe place to stay with the condition that it's just her. A free place to stay and be safe. This was fine for a while, but then she began to beg to have her cats. We are not married at this time, and she's still living for free. I had some empathy and didn't mind one more animal in the house, so I allowed it. These are the 2 cats we have now, mine and hers. The ex was keeping the other 2 just fine. The relationship was going well until the first time the ex texted, stating he was going to Texas and was going to put them up for adoption. We are married now. This was a big fight because I felt betrayed from what was originally agreed. That passed, and now this is the second time the ex has texted, stating he has severe allergies now and can't take them. He is still in Florida and never moved to Texas. This is where I brought in my compromise, since I felt I was too stern last time. I love my wife, and I don't mean to make her out as an evil person. I just have no outside voices to help with this, so thank you all. I'm currently going to get professional help and advice, and see what I can salvage, but I'm not sure what values to keep and be strict on, and what things to be flexible on, when I felt like it was discussed previously. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. It was too late before it started. Someone in the throes of mental illness is simply incapable of forging a healthy relationship. So this divorce, or maybe annulment since it's been so brief, isn't over 2 cats. It's because you ignored the red flags and married someone with severe problems who wasn't ready for any kind of mutually constructive relationship. You never should have married her in the first place, so now you're just correcting your life trajectory. Hopefully she has friends and family to help her through the extensive treatment she needs. Comment 2. To be honest, if my partner became suicidal because she couldn't handle 2 more cats after we specifically agreed on no more pets, I would be very worried. I will never be happy with you if I don't have these cats, is one of the most unstable things I've ever heard anyone say. You can either end it or just take the cats and see how it goes. If I were married to my current partner and she did this, I'd be worried and just take the cats and see how it went from there. Now for the update. Thanks for sticking around. A lot has happened since my last post. So, the situation with my wife and the cats? It blew up. Turns out, her ex wasn't just texting about the cats. He was trying to worm his way back into her life, and she was considering it. I found out when I saw a message pop up on her phone while she was in the shower. It wasn't just about allergies or moving to Texas. He was reminiscing about old times, and she was eating it up. I confronted her and she broke down, admitting she felt torn. She said she still had feelings for him and the cats were just a way to keep a connection. I was floored. Here I was, trying to compromise on the cats, and she was emotionally cheating on me. I told her she had to choose. It was either our marriage or her past with him. She chose the cats. Said she needed time to think about us. I was angry, hurt, but I let her go. She packed a bag and left with all 4 cats. The next day, I got a call from her sister. My wife had been in an accident. She was okay, but the cats weren't. She had swerved to avoid hitting a dog on the road and crashed into a tree. The 2 new cats, the ones from her ex, didn't make it. Her sister said my wife was devastated, blaming herself, and kept saying she had lost everything. I went to the hospital. Seeing her there, broken, something in me softened. I didn't want to be the guy who said, "I told you so." So I didn't. I just sat with her. We didn't talk about the cats, the ex, or the divorce. We just sat in silence. After she was discharged, things were different. She was quieter, more reflective. She apologized for everything, said she realized that she had been trying to fill a void with the cats, with her ex, with anything but facing her own issues. We started going to therapy more regularly. It was tough, digging through all the mess, but it was necessary. We talked about trust, about our future, about what we both wanted. It was clear that we still loved each other, but love wasn't enough. We had to work on it every day. Then her ex showed up again. This time, he wanted to apologize, said he felt responsible for the accident. I didn't trust him, but my wife said she needed closure. They met, talked, and she came back with a sense of finality. She told me she was done with him for good. She wanted to focus on us, on getting better, on being the person she promised to be when we got married. It's been pretty tough, to say the least. But here we are, still together. It's not perfect, and I'm still resentful of the chaos her ex brought into our lives. But we're working on it. We're trying to rebuild, and that's all I can ask for right now. Thanks for reading. My brother cut me off for trying to protect our mom. But when his wife cheated and he lost it, I made sure the divorce papers were the last thing he saw. Before I took full custody of his kid. Am I the idiot for sticking up for my mom? What would you do next? Here's the background. I have put up with my brother and his outlandish behaviors for years, mostly for my mom. My sisters and I used to hide in my mom's bedroom as adolescents for hours, while he would chase us around the house. He was 8, with a butcher knife, scared for our lives. Don't be too hard on my mom. Our father had just passed that summer. We forgave him. Eventually, he was put in a mental institution for almost ending the life of our next-door neighbor, 10-year-old girl, when he threw a knife at her head. Again, we forgave him and were there for him during the process. In high school, he brought a gun to school, shortly after Columbine, and put my mom through hell. Obviously, he was arrested and expelled. We forgave him and were there for him. A few years later, he was locked up for dealing drugs. We forgave him and were there for him. As an adult, he got intoxicated and broke my foot at my sister's wedding. We forgave him, albeit on one foot. One day he got angry. Yes, you are probably picking up on anger issues. And he called me a fag in my own house in front of my grandparents, outing me to them. We forgave him. One day several years ago, I called my mom to say hi, and she was in tears. I couldn't make out her words. His wife had apparently yelled at my mom and told her how much she hated our family. There was a list of reasons which she followed up in a very detailed email. We are fairly certain his wife has BPD. Despite this, we had put up with years of her manipulation and lies, and brought her into our family. But this was the last straw. I called my brother and tried to talk to him, and he would not listen. The one thing I probably did wrong was say that they should consider counseling, as this was not a healthy environment to raise a child in. In retrospect, not a good move on my part. He told me it was none of my business. Apparently that one phone call was unforgivable, despite decades of us being there for him. Interestingly, the rest of my family forgave them for those harsh words. My brother and his wife refused to introduce me to their children, and when the entire family does get together, if I'm invited, I am treated as the outsider, ignored, and no one sticks up for me. I mostly find it hard to move on, as my sisters and mom still have a relationship with him and his wife. And since no one sticks up for me, it hurts. I do reach out every year on his birthday, but of course don't get a response. And no, he hasn't blocked me. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Sorry, but your mother has failed all of you. She has swept your brother's psychotic behavior under the rug for far too long. Your childhood should not have been spent dealing with your brother's violent rages. I think your mom has picked her side, and that is the one that involves you spending the rest of your life bowing down to your brother. Your mom is happy in this cycle. The next time she phones upset, refuse to speak about it. You can't make her change her stance. So should you suffer for doing what normal, well-adjusted people would do? If it were me and I was modeling healthy relationships to my children, your mother family wouldn't be the example I would use to set the bar. Comment 2. Your brother's punishment of cutting you off is no hardship, as he sounds like a nightmare, as does his wife. I'm sorry for his kids, but with those two parents, there's nothing you could do from afar to help. It's not your responsibility to fix things after his wife went after your mom and hurt her feelings. I wouldn't do anything beyond enjoying the peace of not having such exhausting people in my life. Maybe reconsider your relationships with them all, as it sounds like they're all not kind to you in one way or another. You deserve to be loved, appreciated, and liked by your family, and that's not what is happening here. Now for the update. Thanks for sticking around to hear more about this mess. So last week, my brother's wife, let's call her S, got caught cheating. It was with his best friend, no less. The whole family found out when my brother came home early and walked in on them. He went berserk, trashed the house, and S ended up in the hospital. It was a nightmare. The police got involved, and my brother was arrested for attack. My mom, bless her, she's always trying to keep the peace, went to bail him out. She's using her retirement savings, can you believe it? And she's convinced he's the victim here. I tried to tell her that he needs to face the consequences, but she wouldn't hear it. She's always had a soft spot for him ever since our dad died. After the bail, my brother came to stay with us. My mom insisted. It's like we're back to being kids again, tiptoeing around his moods. He's been sulking and angry, blaming everyone but himself. And S? She's filed for divorce and a restraining order. But here's where it gets even more twisted. My sister, the one who always seemed to have her head on straight, she's been acting weird. Turns out, she knew about S and the affair for months. She didn't say anything because she didn't want to stir up trouble. When I found out, I was furious. How could she keep this from us? It's like she's living in her own little world, thinking she's doing the right thing by keeping secrets. And then, as if things couldn't get any worse, my brother found out about my sister knowing. He went off the deep end, accusing her of betrayal. It was a huge blowout. My mom was crying, trying to calm everyone down, but it was no use. In the middle of all this chaos, my brother's kids were supposed to come over for a visit. But with the restraining order and the mess at home, it didn't happen. My nieces and nephews, they're innocent in all this, but they're caught up in the crossfire. It breaks my heart. I've been trying to keep my distance, but it's hard when it's your family. I've been thinking about cutting ties, but then I look at my mom. She's getting older and she's already lost so much. I can't leave her to deal with this alone. So I'm still here, in the thick of it. I keep reaching out to my brother, hoping he'll change. But deep down, I know he won't. It's like we're all stuck in this toxic cycle, and I'm the only one who sees it. Thanks for listening. It helps to get it all out. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.